tell our listeners the difference between coaching in the pros and college as far as not work ethic, but what you have to do and what's the difference in the two?
Well, basically the same thing wins. The biggest difference is you're dealing with a 25, 26-year-old that has been at this a long time, as opposed to a 19, 20-year-old that's just getting started. But the same thing, the basics always win. The group that's got the best organization within that unit is a little bit ahead also. But I think the biggest difference is the quality of the overall unit. You may have in college you may have 8 or 9 guys that are really strong, and then you fill in around them, and a lot of NFL teams, you got 25, 26 guys that are really that strong.
Yeah. Okay. Technique-wise, do you change a lot technique-wise? Because is it more complicated in teaching complication, different kind of defense and so forth in the pros?
Sure. Well, because you got so much more time. In the NFL, you're dealing with a group that comes to work at 8:30 in the morning and they're there at 5:30 in the afternoon. That's all they do. And on a college campus, you got to know boy's got an English exam this morning. He's got to go work out. He's got all these things going, and then he's got to go to practice. So the time management issue in college, I think Alabama probably way ahead of a lot of folks in how they manage the time of those players and cut as much of the wasted time out of it. But just time on the job probably is the biggest difference.
Okay, Barry.
Coach, this is Barry. I wanted to ask you, Nick Saban. It seems like here the last several years, or maybe ever since he's been here, they've done a lot more national recruiting, which is a little bit tougher when you're going to California to recruit a kid, to really evaluate him. They probably already know the kid's good enough, the 5-star guys. It's not that hard to pick those guys out, but just knowing everything in and out about them. But have you ever seen a guy that's making as much money as Coach Saban that just continues to work and work and work? I've seen a lot of head guys, they have success, they make a bunch of money, and then they kind of just let the assistants handle all the recruiting and let their name take over. But this guy is relentless, isn't he, in his recruiting approach and how he just does it year in and year out?
He's not only in the recruiting, he's just relentless in the process of really making that unit the best possible. I don't think I've ever been in that office that you didn't see him working. You walk into a guy's office sometimes and he's sitting at the desk maybe reading a piece of paper or something, but with Coach, he's always working. Recruiting is probably one of his strongest suits. And, the 5-star and all that stuff, that doesn't mean a whole lot. His deal is to find the best player at that position as dictated by what they're doing on the field. So, he's got a plan and works at it 24 hours a day.
No doubt, Dad.
Joe, we see so much change offensively in offensive football from when you were with Ray and all the people that you've been with. And I assume that we see a lot of difference defensively. I don't know a lot about it. But talk to our listeners a little bit about how the defense has had to change some because of the way the offense plays.
Well, that's always been the case. If you could just put a mural up and show college football over the last 40 years, there's cycles. You run through an issue. Coach Bryant was probably one of the few coaches early that really knew how to follow that cycle. He didn't change during the cycle. In other words, when he went to the wishbone and ran the wishbone, he didn't jump around. But he went from throwing the ball to running the ball. The things that will attack a defense at that time. Now, defense is going to catch up. It always does. It runs a circle there, and the defense will get ahead, and then the offensive coaches, you know, they all meet somewhere out in Las Vegas or something during the summer. I always thought, come up with all that stupidity, but you know, they really they have a plan to attack what's happening defensively at that time. It doesn't make any difference if you can run good plays. What matters is if you can attack you know, what you're seeing week in and week out. So everybody says, well, you know, they'll never stop that. Well, eventually they will. And I thought Alabama did a great job last year in handling what was, you know, presented to them each Saturday.
Coach, talk a little bit about people always say, oh, well, Alabama's got the best players, that they're supposed to win, you know, winning 4 national championships out of 8 years. But sometimes those great players are not the easiest to coach or to handle because they've been coddled. I don't think they are at Alabama. But just talk about how difficult that is to take a 5-star guy, if that's what he is or whatever, make him wait his turn, which they seem to do at Alabama, not be cancer in the locker room. I mean, coaching those guys, it's not that easy, is it?
Well, you know, coaching's coaching, and it's always been that way. The player's going to react basically to his environment, and you develop an environment that player can thrive in. And so, you know, like even we were talking about the NFL a while ago, all they want to know is, can you help me play better and longer? Well, in college, they don't have that mentality quite yet, but the idea is if you're consistent, if the player comes to the office every day and he knows what to expect, you got a whole lot better chance of getting something good out of him than if one day, you know, you're slap happy, the next day you're real rigid, and he doesn't have it's no different than raising children, you know. So if your child knows what to expect and discipline and everything is consistent, then he's got a chance to thrive in his environment. If every day's different, if he's got to walk in the house and see what mood you're in that day, then you got a chance to lose it. So I don't think there's any. Some of the greatest players that we ever had were the best people. You know, you look back at Cornelius Bennett and all those guys. Listen, there's not a better guy ever come down the trail than those guys. So a lot of times people get this misconception of, you know, because he's great, he's got all this air about him that makes him different. Not really so. A lot of times it goes back to how their grandmama and mama raised them, you know. If he was brought up to respect his elders, to do the things that are, you know, he's supposed to do, then you got a chance to coach that guy. And if you don't, you know, that's sometimes a guy, you know, sometimes a horse just won't take a bit. And if he won't take the bit, he's not going to be, you know, much use to you. So you just have to be consistent, find out what it is you got to do to help that player get better. And, you know, sometimes it's just letting him relax. Then letting him know, hey, look, all we want you to do is the very best you can today. But that the very best you can is exactly that, you know, that you're not going to accept a half-hearted effort on anything that you do.
Right, Dad.
When you came in with Ray Perkins, now he ain't gonna guard anybody. You know, Ray ain't gonna guard. He's gonna talk. He's gonna be on the offensive end. He ain't gonna guard anybody. What were the surprises for you when you took over that defense and coming to the University of Alabama? What are some of the things that you remember most about that first year?
You know, thinking back, and you know what, I don't have anything to do anymore except, you know, look after grandkids. So a lot of times I catch myself thinking about what could I have done differently. You know, what could I have done to give this kid a better chance to win and give us a better chance to be successful. But I can tell you this, Ray Perkins treated me with the utmost respect, the utmost confidence. He just, Ray was one of the best guys that I worked for. Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, he was this, he was that. Well, everybody's different. Yeah. You know, I don't think you really look at a guy's personality and say, well, how does that, you know, you can't work for this one, you can't work for that one. It's getting the job done that's important. And winning was important to Ray. Everybody that I worked for that had played for Coach Bryant, it was exactly the same. Exactly the same. And you know what? You go talk to guys 10 or 15 years from now that played for Coach Saban, they're going to say the same thing. He was always the same. And the ball didn't change. The emphasis on what winning. You know, Wimp, I used to love to watch your teams play. You could always count on them, you know, having that certain quality about them. And so that's what you try to instill in those guys. And Ray was no different than anybody else. He on the football field, he wanted to win. The players knew he wanted to win, and he was going to work as hard as he could to win.
We sure appreciate you being on, Joe.
I got to ask you I got to ask Coach one question.
Okay,
Dad. I was trying to read up about you, Coach, just to put everything together, and I see here on July the 13th, 1944, that you were born in a train car en route from Cedartown, Georgia, to Piedmont, Alabama. Is that true?
You know what? One I was about 8 years old. It was raining outside. My mama was ironing, and seriously, we didn't. You know, she was trying to calm me down, and she started telling me this story about how I was born. My father was in World War II. He was a Ranger and actually a prisoner of war. And you know, my mother lived in her parents lived in Cedartown. My daddy's parents lived in Piedmont, and she was about 9 months and 3 weeks pregnant, and so she gets on that train and heads to Piedmont, and the birth process started. Now you can it depends on which aunt and uncle you listen to is how it actually came out. I think we made it to the house, and the only thing I remember for sure that she told me was that the first thing I ever had on was a white shirt with a collar and the sleeves cut out of it, you know. And but that's the reason I'm so jumpy, Wimp. You know, that train car got to rocking and rolling, and so I've been nervous all my life, I guess.
Well,
oh boy,
you're great. You're a great guy, and I appreciate so much you being on. I hope things go good for you this fall, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere down the line.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.